In this video, we are going to look at some past paper questions on coordinate geometry. So first, we'll start with January 2023. So we have lines L and M are drawn on the square grid below. So this is the Cartesian plane here. We have line L and line M. For part A, they want us to write down the coordinates of the x-intercept of line L. So we know the x-intercept is where the line touches the x-axis. So this is line L here, and it touches the x-axis at 6. So the x-intercept will be 6. So you can write that as a coordinate as, so you're going to write 6 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. All right, because at this point here, it's 6 on the x, but it's also 0 on the vertical axis, which is the y-axis. Then for part 2 here, they want us to state the y-intercept of the line M. So this is the line M, and the y-intercept is where the line touches the y-axis. So if you go all the way down, it touches the y-axis as -2. So that's 0 on the x-axis, but -2 on the y-axis. All right, so that's 0 on the x-axis, but -2 on the y-axis. Now for part B of this question, we have the equation of the line L is x plus 2y take away 6 is equal to 0. They want us to find the value of k given the point 9 and k lies on the line L. So first we must understand that 9k means x is 9 and y is k. So in this equation, it means x is 9 and y is k. So I'm going to put when x is equal to 9 and y is equal to k, because that's our coordinate 9k. All right, this is x, this is y. Right, we write the equation of the line, which is x plus 2y take away 6 is equal to 0. Replace the x with 9. Replace the y with k. So now we have an equation here where the only variable is k. So now we can solve for k. So we can transfer the 9 and the -6 across the equal sign. So we'll have 2k is equal to, transfer the -6 across, and we'll turn +6. Transfer the +9 across, and we'll turn -9. So we'll have 2k is equal to 6 take away 9, which is -3. And k will be equal to -3 over 2. So that's k is equal to -1.5. Now for part C, they want us to find the equation of the line M in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So this is the line M. We know that we know to find the equation of the line, we need the gradient and we need to know what is the y-intercept. So we need to find out what is M and what is c. Now c is easy because that's where the line touches the y-axis. So c is -2 off the bat. All right, so just from the graph, you can see c is equal to -2 because c is the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is -2. So now we just have to find what is M. So we'll make a triangle whose hypotenuse will be more than half the line. Well, that's a right angle triangle, I should say. So I'll take the point right here. This is 3 and 4. And I'll take this point right here, which is 0 and -2. All right, so this is my right angle triangle. This would be my change in y, and this would be my change in x. So my change in y, this line is sloping upwards, so it's a positive gradient. All right, so my change in y is starting here, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my change in y is equal to 6. And my change in x will be counting here, so we're counting from here, 1, 2, 3. So my change in x is equal to 3. So now my gradient M is equal to a change in y over a change in x. It's a positive gradient. So that's 6 over 3. And 6 over 3 is 2. All right, so I got my change in y from here, which is 6. And the change in x, I got that here, which is 3. So now that I know what is M and c, I'll just write my equation in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So I'll just put in what is m, which is 2, and c, which is -2. And of course, these two signs, you multiply them and you get a negative sign. So we'll have y is equal to 2x take away 2. And this is the equation of the line that they're asking for. So equation of m is y is equal to 2x take away 2. So now for part D, they want us to show by calculation that the line L and the line M are perpendicular. So this is line M. We found on the previous page that the gradient of line M was equal to 2. So I'll just write that gradient of line M, and we call that M1 is equal to 2. So now we just have to find what's the gradient of line L. Now if we go back to part B, where they give us, this is the equation of line L, all right, which is x plus 2y take away 6 is equal to 0. Now we could calculate the gradient from this line and work it out. This is a negative gradient. We could select 2 points, like here's negative 2 and 4, and probably down here, which is 6 and 0. And we can work out the gradient, changing y over changing x. Or we can use the equation of the line that they give us. So I'll put equation of line L is, and that's the x plus 2y take away 6 is equal to 0. And now what we'll do, we'll transpose for y. All right, so we'll carry both the x and the negative 6 across the equal sign. So we'll have 2y is equal to negative x plus 6. All right, and that's positive x went across the equal sign to negative x. Negative 6 went across the equal sign and turned positive 6. All right, so now we'll bring the 2 across. So this is 2 multiplied by y. So when you translate across, the operation change to division. So you have negative x plus 6 over 2. So now we write that as negative x over 2 plus 6 over 2. So now we write this as negative a half x plus 3. All right, so this means for the line L, the gradient is negative a half and the y-intercept is 3. But all we are interested in here is the gradient. So the gradient of line L is negative a half. So I'll say M2 is equal to negative a half. And now if we multiply M1 times M2, which is the gradient of line M with the gradient of line L, we will get 2 multiplied by negative a half, which is equal to negative 1. And anytime you multiply the gradients of 2 lines and you get negative 1, then the lines are perpendicular. So I'll just write here, since M1 times M2 is equal to negative 1, lines are perpendicular. Now for the last part of this question, we have line L and line M represent the graph of a pair of simultaneous equations. Using the graph on page 11, which is this graph here, write down the solution of the pair of simultaneous equations. So this is line L again, and this is line M. And the solution of the simultaneous equations will be where these 2 lines intersect. And we see that they are intersecting here at 2 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. All right, so that's here. And that's 2, point of intersection. This is the x-coordinate and this is the y-coordinate. So your solution will be x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 2. So moving on to June 2022, the question on coordinate geometry, we have that the line L is shown on the grid below. So this is the line L here. We want to write down the equation of the line L in the form y equal mx plus c. So as you know, we need to state what's the gradient m and the y-intercept, which is c. So c is where the line touches the y-axis. And if you look at the graph, the line touches the y-axis at 1. So off the bat, we know that c is equal to 1, because that's where the line touches the y-axis. And next, we need to calculate the gradient of this line. So I'll make my right angle triangle right here. So this line is sloping upwards as we move from left to right. Therefore, it has a positive gradient. So my change in y will be positive. And let's count in here. 2 blocks, 1, 2. So my change in y is equal to 2. And then counting blocks here now from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my change in x is equal to 6. So my gradient will be equal to a change in y over a change in x. And that would be change in y is 2 and a change in x is 6. And that will be 1/3. So now that I know what is m and c, all I have to do is replace the m here at 1/3 and the c here with 1. So I have y is equal to mx plus c. So y is equal to m, which is 1/3, x plus c, which is 1. So the equation of L is y is equal to 1/3 x plus 1. So now for part 2, we have the equation of a different line Q is y is equal to negative 2x plus 8. We want to write down the coordinates of the point where Q crosses the x-axis. So that's the x-intercept. Now the x-intercept occurs when y is equal to 0. So I'm going to put when y is equal to 0, we're going to have y is equal to negative 2x plus 8. So there's the equation of Q. Put y is equal to 0. We're going to solve this equation for x. So you're going to transfer the positive 8 across and it'll take negative 8. So negative 8 is equal to negative 2x. So now we have the negative 2 multiplied by x. So when you transfer it across, the operation will change to division. The 2 remains negative. So we're going to have negative 8 divided by negative 2 is equal to x. So divide these 2 and we're going to get positive 4. Now, they say they want us to write down the coordinates of the point where Q crosses the x-axis. So yes, 4 is the x-intercept, but that's 4 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. So my coordinate will be 4, 0. And this will be my answer. Now for part B, they want us to write down the coordinates of the point where Q crosses the y-axis. So that's the y-intercept, and that occurs when x is equal to 0. So I'm going to put when x is equal to 0, write back the equation of Q, which is y is equal to negative 2x plus 8. We're going to put x is equal to 0. So y is equal to negative 2 times 0 plus 8. Anything times 0 is 0. So you're going to get y is equal to 0 plus 8. So y is equal to 8. So my y-intercept is equal to 8. But they want the coordinates. So that's when x is 0, y is 8. So my coordinates would be 0 on the x, 8 on the y. And this is my answer. So now for part C, they want us to draw the graph of Q on this grid paper here. So now remember, this was the x-intercept, which was 4, 0, and the y-intercept was 0, 8. So I'm going to write for line Q. We had x-intercept, which was 4, 0, and we had y-intercept, which was 0, 8. All right, so now plotting those points, that's 4 on the x-axis, so that's down here, 4 on the x-axis. And then we have 8 on the y-axis, that was 0, 8 means. All right, so that's 8 on the y-axis, that's up here. And we just take our ruler and draw a line to connect these 2 points. And I'll label this line Q. Right, just like how we have the label here, this line is L, this line is Q. Now I'm just putting part 3 here. Complete the statement below. According to the graph, the solution of the system of equations consisting of L and Q is. That is just the solution to the simultaneous equations. We have line Q, which has an equation. We have line L, which has another equation. All right, and the solution of those 2 equations will be where these 2 graphs intersect. And we can see these 2 graphs are intersecting here at 3 and 2. So this is my point of intersection. And those coordinates are 3 on the x-axis and 2 on the y-axis. Okay, 3 and 2. And that will be the solution to the simultaneous equations consisting of the equation of L and Q. So a solution would be x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 2. That's because we have 3 on the x, that's the 3 here first, and then 2 on the y. That's why we have the 2 here. All right, so moving on to the coordinate geometry question for June 2021, we have the diagram below shows L1 and L2. All right, so this is L1 here and L2 is here. So they give us the equation of L1 and they just let us know that L2 is passing through -5 on the y-axis. So this is the y-intercept here, 0, -5. So this point will be -5 on the y-axis. All right, so the equation of line 1 is x plus 2y is equal to 10. So that's this. And the line L2 passes through the point 0, -5 and is perpendicular to L1. So these two lines are at 90 degrees to each other. So now they want us to express the equation of line 1 in the form y equal mx plus c. All right, so we already have the equation of line 1 here. So we just have to rearrange it by making y the subject of the formula. All right, so part 1, we have L1 is such that we have x plus 2y is equal to 10. We're just going to transpose for y. So carry across the x. It's going from positive x to negative x. So we have 2y is equal to 10. Take away x. Then we have the 2 multiplied by y. So when we transfer it across, the operation will change to division. So we have y is equal to 10. Take away x divided by 2. We can write these two terms in the numerator over the common denominator. So we have y is equal to 10 over 2, take away x over 2. So we'll have y is equal to 10 divided by 2 is 5. And this x over 2, we can write that as a half x, so negative a half x. Now what we could do is write the negative a half x first and then the positive 5 after. So y is equal to negative a half x plus 5. So now we have it in the form y is equal to m, which is negative a half. So the m is negative a half, x plus c, and c is 5. So what does that tell us about L1? The gradient is negative a half, and the y-intercept up here would be 5. So let's put it in here that this point would be positive 5. All right, that's because the y-intercept here is positive 5. All right, so part 2, they just want us to state the gradient of line 1. And as I said, this negative a half x, so is mx, so negative a half is your m. So this is the gradient of line 1. All right, so let's put m is equal to negative a half, and that's the answer. All right, so now let's say, hence determine the equation of line 2. So this is line 2 here. All right, and as we said, the y-intercept of line 2 would have been -5. All right, so the y-intercept of line 2 is -5, right? Because that's where the line cuts the y-axis, line 2. So that tells us c is -5. Now remember they told us that these two lines are perpendicular, and across here we found the gradient of line 1, which is -1/2. So I'll call that m1. So I'll say m1 is equal to -1/2, and that's the gradient of line 1. And these two lines are perpendicular, meaning they are at 90 degrees to each other. Therefore, the perpendicular gradient would be to flip this fraction and change the sign. So I'll put m2, which is the gradient of line 2, is equal to flip a half, you get 2 over 1, change the sign, that's positive 2 over 1, so that's positive 2. And that's because if you multiply 2 by -1/2, you're going to get -1. And anytime you multiply the gradients of two lines and you get -1, they are perpendicular. All right, so just remember that. Just flip the fraction and change the sign, which you can call the negative reciprocal. All right, so I'm just going to write that gradient of line 2 is equal to 2. So now that I have both the gradient and the y-intercept, I can write the equation of the line. All right, so let's write m is equal to 2. So now we have y is equal to mx plus c. So we're just replacing the m with 2 and the c with this -5. All right, plus our negative sign, so we multiply them, we get our negative sign. So this is just 2x take away 5. And this is my equation of line 2. So equation of line 2 is y is equal to 2x take away 5. All right, so moving on to January 2020, the coordinate geometry question. We have the graph below shows two straight lines, L1 and L2. L1 intercepts the x and y axis at 4, 0, so this is the x-intercept, and 0, 2, so this is the y-intercept. All right, so the 0, 4 would be here, so this is the x-intercept, and the 0, 2 would be here, which is the y-intercept. So now we're saying that L2 intercepts the x and y axis at 1.5, so this is the x, So this is L2. I will intersect the x-axis at 1.5. That will be this point here. And the y-intercept will be 0, -3. So that's -3 on the y-axis. So this point here will be -3. So I'm just going to put in that. That here will be -3. Now what I want us to do is to determine the equation of line 1. So now the equation is in the form y equal mx plus c, and we need to state what is m and what is c. Now for L1, we know the y-intercept. This is L1 here. The y-intercept is 4. So off the bat, we could write that c is equal to 4. And now we just need to determine what is m. So I'll just form my right angle triangle. All right, and I did so right here. Now, as we move from left to right, this line is sloping downwards. Therefore, this would have a negative gradient. So my change in y would be negative. So I'll just count the blocks. Each block is 1. Let's see, 1, 2, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my change in y would be -4. All right, so my change in y is equal to -4. And if you count blocks here now, each block is 1, 1, 2. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means my change in x is equal to 8. So for my gradient, m, I'll have the change in y over a change in x. And just remember my gradient is negative here. So I'll be -4, which is my change in y, over +8, which is my change in x. And that would give you -1/2. So my gradient is -1/2 and my y-intercept is 4. So my equation is in form y equal to mx plus c. Let's replace the m and c. So m with -1/2 and c with +4. And this will be the equation of line 1. So my equation of line 1 is y is equal to -1/2 x plus 4. Now for part 2, the question is, what is the gradient of line 2 given that L1 and L2 are perpendicular? Now we know if we have the gradients of two lines and we multiply them and we get -1, the lines are perpendicular, or one gradient is the negative reciprocal of the other. So now we found here that the gradient of line 1 was equal to -1/2. So I'm going to write gradient of L1, and I'll call that M1, is equal to -1/2. All right, so now the gradient of L2, and I'll call that M2, would be to flip this fraction and change the sign, negative reciprocal. So flipping 1/2, you get 2/1, change the sign from negative to positive, and you get +2. And of course, if you multiply M1 by M2, M1 times M2, you're going to have -1/2 times 2, which is equal to -1. All right? And that tells you that these two lines are perpendicular, because when you multiply two gradients, you get -1. Now moving on to May 2019, the coordinate geometry question. We have the equation of a straight line is given as x/3 plus y/7 is equal to 1. This line crosses the y-axis at Q, so that's the y-intercept is at Q. They want to determine the coordinates of Q, so that is determine the coordinates of the y-intercept. So the y-intercept occurs when x is equal to 0. So I'm just going to put when x is equal to 0. That's how we're going to get the y-intercept. We're going to have x/3 plus y/7 is equal to 1. So replace the x with 0. So that's 0/3 plus y/7 is equal to 1. Any fraction to the numerator 0 will be 0. So that's 0 plus y/7 is equal to 1. So we end up with y/7 is equal to 1. All right, so what I could do is simply write this as y/7 is equal to 1/1 and cross multiply. So I'll have y by 1 is just 1y, which is just y. And 7 by 1, which is just 7. So now for the coordinates, you need to state both the x and y components. So the x component will be 0 and the y component will be 7. So I have q would be 0, 7, which is the y-intercept. So now for part 2, they want to know what is the gradient of the line. So this is the equation of the line here. They want to know what's the gradient. Therefore, I'll need y to be subject to the formula so that I can see what the gradient is. All right, so I need to inform y is equal to mx plus c. So what I can do is write back this equation and put this 1/1. So I have fractions throughout. And now I could find the LCM between 3, 7, and 1. So I can just multiply this 3 by 7 and get 21, and that will be the LCM. So now when I say 3 into 21, I get 7. Take that 7 and multiply by the numerator, which is x. And I'll get 7x. Then when I say 7 into 21 is 3, 3 multiplied by this numerator here, which is y. So that will give me 3y is equal to, and 1 into 21 is 21. 21 times this numerator, which is 1, will give you back 21. Now, seeing that I found the LCM of all my denominators and use it on both sides of the equal sign, now I could drop the LCM. So now I'm going to drop the LCM. So what I'll have is 7x plus 3y is equal to 21. So now I'll transpose for y and put this in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So the first thing I could do is transfer this positive 7x across the equal sign, and it will turn negative 7x. So I'll have 3y is equal to 21, take away 7x. Then I transfer this 3 across the equal sign, it's 3 multiplied by y. So what I'll have is 21 take away 7x divided by 3 now. I can write the two terms here in the numerator over this common denominator, 3. So 21 over 3, take away 7x over 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. And I can write this as 7 over 3x. So now writing it with the term in x first. So that's negative 7 over 3x, and this positive 7 after. It's in the form y is equal to mx plus c. I could write this as a mixed number. 3 could go into 7 2 times. So y is equal to negative 2 and the remainder 1. So 1/3 x plus 7. So this negative 2 and 1/3 will be the gradient of the line. So m is equal to negative 2 and 1/3. And that would bring us to the end of this video.